Don't forget to like the video, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe for more. Before I start, tell me where you are watching me from. I wonder which cities and towns will join me in this memory that completely changed my life. You wake up today with nothing. Literally nothing. No savings, no inheritance, not even a clue where your next paycheck will come from. You glance at your bank account, and it's that same number you've seen 1,000 times before, zero. You've been hustling, grinding, trying to make ends meet, but it feels like the world keeps pushing you down. Rent is due, bills are stacking, and somehow everyone around you seems to have it figured out. But today, something changes. Today, you make a decision. You decide that financial struggle will not define your life anymore. At first, it's terrifying. You don't have the money to invest. You don't have connections. You don't have a blueprint handed to you by someone else. All you have is your mind, your energy, and a burning desire to get out of the rut. And that is enough. You start by looking at your life with brutal honesty. Where are you spending money you don't have? Where are you letting excuses hold you back? You realize that every small daily decision has been adding up against you. That $5 coffee, that impulse online shopping, the subscription you forgot to cancel, these are not small numbers, they're anchors keeping you from rising. You make the first shift, awareness. Every dollar now counts. Every decision now matters. Next, you dive into learning. You're broke, but you're rich in curiosity. You read everything about money: books, blogs, videos, free courses. You start to understand concepts that once seemed complicated: assets, liabilities, passive income, compounding. Slowly, you begin to see that wealth is not just about earning, it's about thinking differently, acting differently, and believing differently. Your mindset starts to shift. The scarcity in your head turns into possibility. The walls around your life start feeling more like challenges to overcome rather than barriers keeping you trapped. You remember your first experiment. You decide to sell a few old things cluttering your apartment. You create a small online store, list items on marketplaces, and within a week, you make enough money to cover a week's groceries. It's small, but the feeling is enormous. You feel alive. You realize that you are capable of creating money from nothing. That small win ignites a fire inside you that refuses to be ignored. You begin networking. You start talking to people who are doing what you want to do. You attend free webinars, join online communities, and ask questions without shame. You learn that most people who are wealthy were once broke, just like you. And every single one of them made decisions that others refused to make. That's when the realization hits you: the game of wealth isn't about luck, it's about strategy, persistence, and the courage to start while everyone else waits. Then comes the moment you decide to create a plan. Not a fantasy, not a dream, but a real, step-by-step blueprint. You break your financial goal into pieces: short-term wins, medium-term projects, and long-term vision. You write down every possible way to make money with zero starting capital: freelance work, digital products, affiliate marketing, small service-based businesses. You list ideas you'd never considered because you thought you needed money to make money. You realize now that all you need is action, creativity, and consistency. Every morning, you wake up early. You set aside hours to work on your plan, hours to learn skills that increase your value, and hours to build connections. You notice that your mindset keeps evolving. You start seeing opportunity everywhere: a friend who needs social media help, a neighbor who wants tutoring for their kids, an online community seeking content creation. You take action. You say yes to small gigs that others overlook. You invest time instead of money, knowing that the return will come. And slowly, the first signs of change appear. The money trickles in. Not enough to retire on, not yet, but enough to prove to yourself that your life is not bound by scarcity. It's not easy. You face rejection, failed attempts, days when it feels like the universe is laughing at you. But you realize that failure is not the opposite of success, it is part of it. Every setback teaches you a lesson: how to price your service, how to reach more people, how to manage time better. You start documenting your progress. You track every penny you earn, every skill you learn, and every opportunity you seize. You're no longer just surviving, you're building. You're learning the ropes of a game that most people never even try to play, and then, in one quiet moment, it hits you. You see the path clearly. You understand that wealth doesn't start in the bank, it starts in your mind and in your actions. You realize that you are capable of creating more than you ever imagined, and that no amount of money, or lack of it, can hold you back if you are determined. This is the turning point, the moment when how to build wealth with no money stops being a theory and starts being your reality. You're no longer waiting for permission. You're no longer hoping for luck. You're building. Every day. Step by step. Your first chapter in this journey isn't about riches yet, it's about mindset, awareness, and the decision to act. But it's also proof. Proof that the struggle you've endured is not permanent. Proof that with zero money but relentless determination, you can begin a journey toward financial freedom that will change everything. And just like that, you're no longer just imagining a better life, you're creating it, one bold choice at a time. You wake up today and feel something different. The fear hasn't vanished, but it's quieter now. You've taken your first steps, and for the first time, you believe that you can actually create money from nothing. The key is action. Not waiting. Not wishing. Action. And today, that action becomes deliberate. You start with what you already have. Your skills, your time, your phone, your laptop. You realize that these are your tools, your instruments for change. You list every skill you can monetize, even if it seems small or insignificant. Can you write? Offer freelance writing. Can you design graphics? Put your work on Fiverr. Can you help someone with social media? Start offering your services for free at first, just to get testimonials. Every small step counts. You understand that you don't need a fancy office, investors, or a huge budget. All you need is ingenuity, persistence, and the courage to try. You remember your first real success. You offered to manage a local business's Instagram account in exchange for a small commission on sales. It wasn't glamorous. It wasn't life-changing yet. But that first payment hit your bank account, and it was like magic. It wasn't just money, it was validation. You had traded your time and skill for value, and someone had recognized it. You realize that this is how wealth begins, by providing value in exchange for compensation, even when the sum seems tiny. As the days pass, you start experimenting. You test different gigs, different approaches, and start seeing patterns. Some things work, some fail, but each attempt teaches you something critical. You begin documenting your journey, tracking your earnings, your hours, and your growth. You start to see that consistency beats talent alone. The people who succeed are not always the smartest or luckiest, they are the ones who refuse to quit, who show up day after day, learning, adapting, and improving. Then you hit a challenge. A client doesn't pay on time. A project falls through. You feel frustration bubbling up. But you pause, take a deep breath, and remind yourself why you started. You remember the zero in your bank account, the sleepless nights, the crushing feeling of helplessness. And you realize that this moment, this setback, is temporary. It's a lesson, not a barrier. You pivot. You diversify. You learn to have multiple small streams of income instead of relying on one. You experiment with online platforms, microservices, and side hustles that require no upfront capital. Slowly but surely, you start seeing stability where there was none before. You also discover the power of community. You join online groups of people learning the same journey, people hustling for the first dollar, the first client, the first sale. You share ideas, ask questions, and find mentors who have walked the same path. You realize that no one gets rich in isolation. Wealth is amplified when you collaborate, learn, and build relationships with people who inspire you to push further. You begin giving small tips, helping newcomers, and in doing so, you strengthen your own understanding and reputation. Some nights, you lie awake thinking about the future. You imagine a life where money isn't a constant source of stress. You see yourself traveling, exploring, helping others, investing in opportunities you once thought impossible. You start building a mental blueprint: what skills will take you where, what investments make sense, which habits must stick. Your mind becomes a workshop, constantly refining, recalculating, imagining bigger possibilities, and then, the breakthrough happens. One of your experiments pays off more than expected. Maybe it's a small digital product you created with no money, an ebook, a template, a course, and it begins selling steadily. Or perhaps a freelance client refers you to 5 more clients. Whatever the trigger, it's proof that your efforts are compounding. This is the moment when the title "How to Build Wealth with No Money" starts to feel like a roadmap rather than a dream. You realize that wealth is not just about luck, it's about starting small, taking action, and scaling consistently. At this stage, you begin to think differently about time. Every hour is an asset. You start prioritizing activities that have the highest potential for return. You cut distractions, you focus relentlessly, and you embrace discomfort. Nights you once spent scrolling social media are now invested in learning a new skill, refining a product, or reaching out to potential clients. You realize that building wealth with no money is not about working harder, it's about working smarter, faster, and with intention. The financial wins are still modest, but the mindset shift is profound. You are no longer the person who waits for a paycheck or dreams of a lucky break. You are a creator, a strategist, a doer. And that shift changes everything. Every small win builds confidence. Every lesson builds skill. Every connection builds opportunity. And slowly, imperceptibly at first, the life you imagined begins to take shape. You pause and look back. A few weeks ago, you were terrified of your bank account. Now, you feel empowered. You have proof that you can make money from nothing, proof that action beats fear, and proof that persistence beats circumstance. This is not the end, it's only the second chapter of your journey, but it's the part where you begin to truly believe that wealth is within reach. And with that belief, you know that nothing can stop you from taking the next step. You wake up now and feel the momentum. The small wins you've been stacking aren't just trickles of money anymore, they're streams, starting to form a river. You realize something important: the foundation you built when you had nothing is now carrying you toward something much bigger. You're no longer scrambling, you're strategizing, growing, and scaling. By now, you've learned a crucial truth: opportunities are everywhere, but action distinguishes the doors from the dreamers. You see a problem, and instead of sighing, you ask yourself, how can I solve this and get paid for it? You pitch ideas, create solutions, and suddenly, clients, customers, and followers are seeking you out. You feel that surge of confidence because you've discovered that value creation is the engine of wealth. The more value you provide, the more money follows. You start automating small parts of your process. You create templates for services you repeat often. You set up automated emails for new clients. You streamline your workflow, which frees up hours every week. Those hours become your secret weapon. You reinvest them into learning, expanding your reach, and building new income streams. Time is your most valuable currency, and you treat it with respect. Then comes a pivotal moment: you launch something bigger. Maybe it's a digital course, a software tool, or a subscription service. You put everything you've learned into it. You market it relentlessly, reaching people who resonate with your story, your struggles, and your solutions. And for the first time, the returns feel exponential. You're not just trading hours for dollars, you're creating systems that make money while you sleep. That's the turning point where How to Build Wealth with No Money fully transforms from a title into a reality. Alongside this financial growth, your mindset evolves again. You notice a new energy in yourself. Scarcity thinking is fading. You no longer worry about bills or small setbacks. You see failures as experiments, not defeats. You start mentoring others, sharing your journey, and realizing that helping someone else succeed also reinforces your own growth. You're no longer just surviving, you're leading, inspiring, and building influence. You also embrace calculated risks. You take on bigger projects, invest in small ventures that don't require massive capital, and leverage your reputation to access opportunities that once felt out of reach. Fear is no longer paralyzing because you know the worst-case scenario is temporary, and the lessons you gain are permanent. You see now that wealth is not just about money, it's about courage, resilience, and the ability to take smart risks. Friends and family begin noticing the change. They see you confident, decisive, and focused. They ask how you're doing it, and for the first time, you realize that sharing your knowledge could become a part of your wealth strategy. You start creating content, tutorials, and guides for others who want to start with nothing, expanding your reach and income simultaneously. You're learning that influence is power, and power can create wealth far beyond what you imagined. The financial returns continue to grow, but the real transformation is internal. You're no longer the person who panicked when the bank account hit zero. You're now someone who sees possibilities where others see limitations. Every project you take on, every skill you master, every person you help adds to your growth. And with that growth comes freedom, the freedom to choose your projects, the freedom to spend time as you wish, and the freedom to dream bigger than ever before. And then, as you pause and reflect on your journey, you see the bigger picture. This isn't just about surviving anymore. It's about thriving. It's about building wealth that can't just support you financially, but also support your vision, your passions, and your legacy. You realize that starting with nothing gave you an advantage. You learned resilience, resourcefulness, and the power of action. Those lessons money alone could never teach. By now, the journey has become undeniable. You are proof that wealth is not reserved for the lucky or the privileged. It is available to anyone willing to start where they are, leverage what they have, and commit to relentless, smart action. You are living proof that how to build wealth with no money is not a gimmick, it is a roadmap, a series of choices that lead to freedom, security, and the ability to shape your life on your terms. Every day, you wake up with purpose, energy, and a plan. You've graduated from survival mode to creation mode. And the best part? You know this is only the beginning. Bigger wins, more freedom, and new opportunities are just around the corner. You've built the momentum. You've mastered the mindset. You've proven to yourself that you can rise from zero. And now, the horizon is limitless. You wake up today and feel unstoppable. The journey from zero to something is no longer a struggle, it's a story you've written with your own hands, your own grit, and your own choices. You look at your bank account, your projects, your influence, and you realize something profound. Money is no longer a worry, it's a tool, a reflection of your effort and a gateway to freedom. By now, you've mastered the principle that wealth is built from value, persistence, and smart risk-taking. You've diversified your income streams, automated processes, and leveraged your knowledge to create opportunities that once seemed impossible. You understand that true wealth is not just financial, it's freedom, the freedom to spend your time, to pursue your passions, to make decisions without fear. You start thinking about legacy. What can you do with your wealth to make an impact, to help others who are where you once were? You mentor, you create content, you launch initiatives that empower people to start their own journeys from nothing. And with every person you help, you feel the multiplier effect of your actions. Wealth isn't just money, it's influence, it's growth, it's the ripple of positive change that spreads far beyond yourself. You also see how far you've come internally. The fear, the scarcity mindset, the anxiety that once controlled every decision, they're gone. You replace them with clarity, confidence, and discipline. You now approach life strategically, with vision and intention. You understand the power of habits, daily routines, and long-term planning. And most importantly, you understand that starting with nothing taught you lessons that money alone could never buy: resilience, creativity, and unwavering self-belief. Now, when you face a new opportunity, you analyze it differently. You don't hesitate. You calculate risks, invest wisely, and take action. You don't wait for perfect conditions, you create them. And every choice compounds, every project builds, and every lesson learned fuels your next move. You're no longer chasing money, you're creating systems, building assets, and designing a life that can't be shaken by temporary setbacks. You reflect on your journey and realize that the title that started it all, How to Build Wealth with No Money, wasn't just a strategy, it was a mindset. It was proof that financial freedom is not about luck, inheritance, or privilege. It's about vision, discipline, and relentless action. Anyone can do it. You proved it. You lived it. And now, you inspire others to do the same. Even the obstacles that once terrified you now seem like opportunities. Challenges that would have stopped you before are now stepping stones. You've built systems that allow you to scale further, take bigger risks with less fear, and grow wealth faster than ever. You've learned to focus on leverage, using time, money, skills, and people strategically. Every day, you're not just earning, you're building an empire of possibility. And the best part? You still remember your beginnings. You remember waking up to zero, wondering how you would survive. That memory keeps you grounded, humble, and hungry. It reminds you that wealth is not a finish line, it's a journey, and the journey is what shapes you. You now approach life with gratitude, knowing that every small decision, every risk, every lesson led you to this place. Today, you are free. Free from worry. Free from scarcity. Free to create, explore, and live on your terms. You have transformed struggle into strength, fear into action, and nothing into everything. You are living proof that anyone, anywhere, starting with nothing, can build wealth and freedom. And as you look to the future, you know that this is only the beginning. The horizon is limitless, the opportunities endless, and the life you create will continue to grow as long as you keep learning, acting, and believing in yourself. So now, take a deep breath, look around, and smile. You've made it this far, and the best chapters of your story are yet to come. You are not just building wealth, you are building a legacy, a life of freedom, and a story that will inspire countless others to follow the same path. This is your moment. Own it.